Oh.
And here we go.
I'm ready. I was born ready, bro.
You're listening to Thunderheads, a podcast for Thunder fans by Thunder fans.
Welcome to Thunderheads. I am Brandon Soul, joined by the Doctor, Rob Larson.
What's up, guys?
And of course, the dark and stormy Jason Lewis.
Yes, sir.
This is our midweek pod. We're just kind of going to break things down. Things haven't been going well for the Thunder. I don't know if you guys have been watching, but they haven't been going well.
Not particularly good.
Yeah, dropped 3 in a row. What, 4 of the last 6 or 5 of the last 7? They're 22 and 20. So 5 of the last 7. 3 in a row. Things didn't get any better last night against Minnesota. They sure as hell didn't get any better against Portland the other night. So let's just start off here. We've done this before. We'll do it again.
Oh, no.
It's that good old classic worried scale. 1 to 10.
We always rename it.
Because, let's be real. I mean, I don't think any of us expected this team to be 22 and 20 at this point, right?
We did not.
But
So-
what are we worried about?
So we're no longer talking panic. You know, panic was for early season. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, oh God, we're not going to be good. Now it's like, how worried are you that this season is gonna be almost a waste?
an 8.
Oh, God.
Woo!
Yeah, I don't know how you can't be worried.
Spitting it.
Whew.
I mean, why? I don't get anybody.
I mean, I'm
who's
not below a 5
worried.
or anything.
You definitely if you're not worried about this team, if you still believe that this team is just magically going to turn it around, like, you're delusional.
I might be a little
Seriously.
bit delusional then.
I'm not saying that this team can't still win a first round playoff series, which, given where they're at right now, would be the Spurs. But, like,
I'm okay with that.
I mean, I don't to think that this team is going to the Western Conference Finals. Like, I'm not there anymore. Not until
That
I
ship
see
sailed
it.
for you.
Yeah, not until I see it. Seriously, like, I don't.
So you
I
think
don't
it's
know.
possible, but you're not.
Yeah,
So-
it's possible.
So what keeps you, Jason, holding on hope for this team?
I think-
Because if you said that maybe you are a little delusional, perhaps, or
Right.
maybe you're not.
I'm a little delusional.
So what is it that's keeping?
I mean, I think most of it is just the flashes of goodness that they've showed. Like, they've shown that they can be extremely good at points.
Sure.
And, I mean, they did hold it together for a minute, like that little 6-game win streak or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was. And I think that can be sustained over a longer period of time but they just have to stop
Right.
being assholes.
Well, what all went into that 6-game win streak, though? You know, I mean, it's a lot of extremely efficient shooting by
Right.
the OK3. Steven Adams playing
Out of his mind.
as good as he can play, as good
Robertson
as he
playing
is.
is out of his mind.
Robertson doing his thing, yeah, being healthy. Role players adding to the team,
Right.
which that's been a huge problem too, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So back to you, Rob. I mean, is that the worry for you that it does seemingly take all of that for this team to catch a stride, or is it just they just simply don't have the tools?
Yeah, I just think this team is showing us who they are and who they will be, especially in the playoffs. And I'm done, like, trying to act like that's not what's happening. Like, especially, so the big one for me recently was the Suns game. So you're on a three game road trip. The Suns being the last one, you get 2 days off. Like, you have to win that game. If you're going to be a good team, you can't lose that game. And then you come back home, and it just adds to it. So you don't beat the Suns, which you should. Portland, without Damian Lillard, you don't beat them. And then you get a very tough game, which I think of those 3, getting the Timberwolves on a back-to-back at their place, like, that's an acceptable loss.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
I think you could understand if it would have been really cool if they won it. Well, you can understand them losing that. But whenever you lose that game and you put that with the previous 2 games, and it's not just that they're losing, it's how they're losing. Like, you're getting blown out by bad teams.
Yeah.
And just getting blown out in general too.
Well, I know, but it makes it even worse that the bad teams are blowing you out.
Right.
I don't get it how you can't keep it competitive with those teams.
And to your point, you know, when you're right, that Timberwolves game, it's a game that you can expect to lose going into it because it is second night of a back-to-back. It's on the road. But the Thunder have put themselves in a position in that for that game where it's like, well, you kind of need to win this game.
Yeah.
You know, now you have to go all out and try to win this game. And then you do go all out and try to win the
And
game.
you
And you
still
get blown,
don't.
and you still get blown out. You know, and you watch that first half last night. Thunder hung around, but it was
didn't
like
even feel like they should have been in that game after
Nah.
the first quarter.
Right.
Like, I didn't understand how it was like 30-30 at one. Like, was it the second Was that at the end of the first?
Tied at halftime.
Yeah.
I mean, the game was
This is
tied at halftime.
ridiculous.
So it was, for me, it was shades of November.
Yeah.
In a weirdly different way, right? Because this game you had Russ. Russ is playing on another level right now. I mean, he's playing great
incredible.
ball.
Yep.
So I don't know what it is. I mean, why can't these other players match his intensity? And, you know, Russ, obviously the defensive end is another conversation. He doesn't always commit 100% on the defensive end, but you know what? He never has. And that's not the reason this team is losing games, because Russ isn't, you know, playing the best defense of his career. It takes everyone, sure, but with as much as he's doing offensively, no one's matching that right now. And so, in a weird way, to me, it's like a throwback to November, the way this team is playing, getting blown out, can't seem to hang around. You just feel the blowout coming, especially that third quarter.
Yeah. Well, like last night, I mean, just from the get-go, like, and the Portland game, like, especially the Portland game, Russ seemed frustrated from the start of that game, and I was like, this does not feel good at all. Like, it didn't have any inkling to me that we were going to get better in that game, or that anything was going to go well, just because of their attitudes, like the way it was playing out on the court. I was just like, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and I wonder what that is. Like,
Right.
I wonder if it's just you're not playing well, and so you're not happy. You know, you're not playing. They're not as free, and I don't know if it's more of a grind at this point for them to try and. I don't know. I wonder what it is. Like, because you could tell, especially that game against Portland. Like, it just seemed like he was frustrated from the beginning.
Yeah, it started very quickly into the game. He was already just like cussing a lot, just like, but like upset.
Right.
And it seemed like he kind of scoffed at Adams, like, or someone a couple times, and I was just like, where did this come from? Like,
So do you
all of a
think
sudden,
that
like,
do you think that stuff like bleeds down into the rest of the team, and that could be maybe a reason this team isn't performing? Is that kind of what you guys are saying?
maybe? I mean, that game felt like it seemed like he was getting mad at himself, because he kept making like a little like rough pass here and there, and then he would just like get mad at himself, and then
Right.
it just didn't help at all. So I mean, we've talked about the Russ attitude thing before,
Sure.
but I mean, last night it wasn't so much that. It just seemed like he was playing his ass off.
He played so well.
Like, he was incredible.
I mean,
And it was like out of necessity too, which is terrible
Right.
for this team, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you have Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, two players that you gave away 4 role players for,
Yep.
and you still need Russ to do that?
Doesn't make you feel good.
You have a lot, but if it's that hard to get those two guys, which I don't think it is. I mean, I know the Thunder are in a slump, and these guys will play better. They
Yeah.
will at times. You saw when they broke out of it, but when there's 4, it's a lot easier to get 1 or 2 of 4 guys to play well than it is 1 or 2 to. You have better odds.
Yeah.
of 2 guys, right? So when the Thunder first broke out of this slump, it was like, I remember us talking about it. They kind of just let go. We talked about how Russ just say, F it, I'm just going to play. And it worked.
Yeah.
Well, he's kind of still doing it. So what is it now? How do they break out of this slump? Or is it back to what you're saying, Rob? Is it just this is going to be the season? They're going to go on these 6-game win streaks, and then they're going to go on these terrible 3-game lose streaks where they lose to 3 bad teams.
I think it mostly just comes down to. So last night against the Timberwolves, like, Carmelo had some really good looks.
Yeah.
Like, he's not knocking him down. Like, there were,
Yeah.
especially to start the game, like, whenever he gets an open 3, like he did, you know, to like, he has to make that to get it going. Like,
Right.
there's so much momentum built on that. And I don't want to make it seem like that one, he had one early, like within the first couple of minutes of the game,
Yeah, that
where he's all the way at the top and he had a wide open 3 and he misses it. And I just feel like,
It's almost like the Jeremy Lamb effect. Like,
Well,
he misses
it
his
does
first one,
kind
and
of,
then
yeah.
it's
Yeah, and
downhill from there.
kind of bleeds off onto other guys too. I think, you know, when you
and a lot of that's probably because it bleeds onto him a little bit too, because when he's missing shots, he really doesn't add much else. He's not playing defense, especially here lately, right?
yeah.
A lot of people getting bloody. Bleeding all over everybody.
5 for 19 for 15 points, 2 for 8 from 3, 1 rebound. That's
That's-
it. That's it for his stats.
And I just heard him talk like a pregame or something where he was talking about how his role changed, and he was like, sometimes you got to go get 10 rebounds, or
Right.
you know. And I'm like,
Win.
How many minutes did he play last night?
go on ahead.
31 minutes. But, you know, that's got to be one of the toughest matchups for him, having Gibson. And that was a mistake the Thunder had early in the game. I mean, Gibson just was doing whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
They were playing him one-on-one, and they just let Gibson bully guys down to the basket.
Well-
And you knew it was going to be a basket as soon as he got the ball.
The problem with Melo, besides just effort, like, he's constantly, it seems, just doesn't care. Like, he lets guys so early in the possession get good position on him,
Right.
and then he is toast. Like, it's so much harder, and then you have to help out. Other guys are open for shots. I mean,
Well, it's like
it leads to just so much other stuff.
he doesn't start trying until they're already
Right.
like almost to the basket. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
now it's going to be really fucking hard. Like if you had tried before, it's kind of what like Billy was talking about with Abrinas. Like if he gets himself in the right position, like he's a good defender.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't do that first, like you're playing from behind all of a sudden, and you're not going to be able to defend a person.
You're gonna foul.
Yeah,
A
like
lot
that's
of
what
times.
happens.
Yeah, when you're a young guy. And Melo, we talked about it a lot with Russ in the past, how he gets caught in these one-on-one matchups. Melo does too.
Yeah.
You know, like
Oh, yeah.
he gets scored on by Gibson, and he feels like he has to go back and score. Like Bielitsa hit a 3 in Melo's face last night, and Melo was like, "Well, I'm going to go score," but Melo shoots like a 2, a long 2. You know, and so it's like, man, there's a greater goal here, and maybe these guys are such veterans that they do coast. They're just coasting through the season, which I mean, 22-20 is not fair to call that coasting. Like that is such a
It's not good.
BS thing to say about this team, but let's say that is it. It doesn't seem like it for Westbrook when he leaves the locker room, doesn't without talking to the media. The way I guess that was Portland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he left the
He was
locker
on his phone last night after the game.
That's right, and he was like just very short with everything. How frustrated must he be right now?
Think about how weird it was. Like, we were talking, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but the Brett Dawson piece that came out where he had like Russ sort of was opening up. It was sentences were his answers. Like it was more than just a phrase or something. You know, he was actually opening up a little bit. They lose that game to Phoenix, and then now look where we're at. Like
Yeah.
you said, he leaves the locker room before the media can get in there. Last night he's on his phone. Like, I don't know. I think that's a problem, right? I mean, I think that sets the tone for everybody else. If Russ can do that, why can't
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But
like-
that's the type of person he is.
You think that goes against like the even keel mindset that players like to preach, and you got to stay even keel. Can't get too high, can't get too low. Well, this team, when they have played well, they seem to get really high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Pouring water.
so then and then they
pouring water
crash
over
down, and then all of a
Right.
sudden they're all in a bad mood, and it's like, yeah, that's a great point. Like maybe they do need to be a little bit more steady.
So what does this team have to do for you guys to be a little bit more worried about this season? Like, what would have to? What would have to
I'm
happen?
worried. I mean, I'm
What
right
was
there with
where
you.
were you at?
I'd probably be right there with you with an 8. I
And
mean,
so Jason, what has to
Like a
happen?
6.
I mean, do you just have to see it?
Yeah.
Do you have to get to the
I think
playoffs
so.
until they get sort of knocked out? Let's say the second round, or even I mean, at this point, it could be a first round
Yeah,
exit.
if I mean, and that's going to be like the problem with me is like if they can't get past the first round, like then that's a huge disappointment. Like a huge disappointment.
to me,
But I feel like I've just seen teams go through this thing every year where they're like, oh, they're not going to be good and it's going to be terrible for them later. And then all of a sudden they hit their stride right at the right time. And it's like, oh, well, this wasn't so bad all along. And so I just don't want to get worked up about it until it's like actually a problem.
Yeah.
But
the scary thing to me is just how much work they have to do.
yeah, no,
That-
it's not. They're not making it easy on themselves by any means. And the whole thing about building the right habits and everything going into that time is not happening. So that's worrisome. I understand where your concern's coming from, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be concerned.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm trying to
well,
kind
also
of pace my worry.
like last night, Denver lost. If Denver wins last night, the Thunder
Yeah.
are not the 7th seed.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at Houston in the first round. I mean, I just think,
which I don't believe that's what you want.
and I do want to talk about the schedule coming up a little bit, because a lot of people are making the case that this team is really going to get rolling after the All-Star break. And so they have 23 games after the All-Star break, which 23 games is, I mean, that's a significant amount of time. I'll give you that. You know, it's over a quarter of the season. So, I mean, I think that there is time there if they can. Maybe during the break they figure something out. I don't know. It could be. The schedule does get tougher, but I think they have 17 games before the All-Star break. And the schedule, I mean, it really opens up for the Thunder. Like, these are, I think, important games
right.
for this team, because you have the record as of yesterday for those games was 318 wins to 355 losses. And so obviously they're going to be playing a lot
Lesser
of
opponents.
teams. Yeah, they're playing a lot of teams that are that they should that they should beat.
Right, which has been
Yeah, not
common
gimmies. Yeah, and
Right.
so I don't know. I think it's going to be really important this time before the All-Star break. These next 17 games where the schedule opens up for them, they should, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they hit a stride here
Right.
before the break, and they ride that after the break or into the break, and that's what propels them. I hope so. I just don't. It's just hard to bank on something like that.
Well, Jason, you and I talked a lot about it when the Thunder were, around 8 and 12.
Yeah.
And I was telling you how, I was losing confidence then. And,
Yeah.
and even then, I knew that in my heart, I was like, it's probably a little ridiculous to lose confidence in this team, but I wasn't. It felt very similar to the way I feel now. It didn't feel like I had any reason to have confidence in them. Like
Yeah,
I
you
wasn't.
don't.
I wasn't seeing the signs. I wasn't seeing those little random good signs. Like now, you just very rarely does a team play good basketball.
Yeah, and you're right. You don't see that. Like, it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm using that to feel hopeful.
And for me, it seems like these other teams that they're going to be battling with coming into the season. I think everyone's goal was at least the Western Conference Finals. Your goal can't be to beat Golden State. Ultimately, I guess that can be your goal, but it's not a realistic goal.
Yeah, right.
So your goal,
Like, if you're looking at it realistically, most people were like, well, this team should make the Western Conference Finals.
I think a lot of people had them as the favorites to go against Golden State
Yeah.
in the
A
Western
lot of people
Conference
putting like the Spurs and Rockets above them, which is fair, but
And so I don't think it's necessarily fair, given the moves they made, the all-in approach that Presti made this season, trading for Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, to just all of a sudden let them off the hook. Let them off the hook and say, well, now if we make the second round, it's okay. I don't think that's acceptable, man.
Yeah.
Because then you made a terrible trade getting Carmelo Anthony. Maybe, even then, if Paul George leaves, that'll end up looking like the worst trade.
yeah.
It will, because you would have had 4 more years of Oladipo and 4 more years of DeMontis Sabonis, or 3
But
more
you
years.
might not have had Russ.
That's true.
That always goes back to
That's
you
true.
kept Russ.
That's true.
Right? Wasn't that the whole goal?
You're right, it does. But, it can go both ways, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, everybody's going to say it was a terrible trade. They won't look at that ever, because they'll be like, well, you look at how good Vic turned, and you're like, well, he wasn't that yet.
But that's what makes it scary. That's what makes this so scary and makes it this 22-20 record. Why Thunder fans are kind of freaking out a little bit.
You know what also makes it a little scary, which we talked about a couple of pods ago, but like this whole thing with Russ and how is he convincing Paul George to stay? It was beat the championship that we're going to win.
Beat the championship.
Beat the
Gotta do
championship that we're going to win.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the pitch.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, it's still, it just does. It worries me.
So let's go to front office, because this is maybe the most interesting dynamic to this team right now.
Yeah.
What's going on in there? What is Sam? You think it's a little panic?
Gotta be.
What is Sam Presti's expectations for this season? What is he doing right now? Is he on the phones trying to get that guy off the bench that they can rely on to maybe just help this team, give him a little, kick in the rear? Is he maybe just dipping in those Paul George talks a little bit, despite the reports we've heard? Is he just staying back and waiting until closer? What are you guys feeling right now?
I mean, I would imagine he's looking for those other pieces. We still have that 15th spot on the roster, right? So
Yep.
I would imagine he's trying to
Chris Bosh?
find something for that. His heart just explodes on the court, and then
Oh.
everything's really terrible. I don't know. I would hope that he's at least looking and maybe shopping a couple people, like we've talked about, the Abrinas, maybe Grant, that kind of thing. But I don't think he's just sitting around.
He's definitely
sure.
not just sitting around. Yeah, his biggest thing is, they're constantly looking at what they can. He said that he always says that. Like they're always looking to see what they can do to be better.
Sure.
And how he can make this team better. So I don't know that there's anybody calling about Paul George realistically.
Yeah.
You
Especially
know?
after stuff comes out, they're like, we're not trading him.
And as much as what all of the publicity that he got around going to LA, how much he enjoyed it, everything, all of that. Like I don't think there's anybody that's realistically calling Sam Presti to say like what
Also,
will
if
it
they've
take?
watched him play, maybe they're not super interested.
Maybe, but I do think that he's 100%. He's figuring out what he can do now and right before the deadline to make this team better. Like But I do think he's panicking. I do think he's a little worried the way that this has played out. There's no way that this is what he had expected it to take this long to work out.
You wouldn't think
if
so.
it even will work out. Like that's the whole thing too, is like maybe the chemistry, maybe it's just not right.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
And I mean,
maybe
that
this-
happens. Like, it does happen.
Yeah.
It does happen.
And if it does, like, there's
You know,
nothing you
but
could
when-
have done to
but-
predict it, though.
This is interesting though. Like it does happen, but when's the last time it happened? When's
Dwight,
the last time
Dwight
it,
Howard and Kobe.
Right. Is that the last time a team going into
terrible.
the season had high expectations and just
Shat the bed.
what's weird is surprisingly, I think Thunder are 22-20 and surprisingly, it's kind of going under the radar a little. Like it's,
Yeah, like-
people aren't just hammering them
Well,
in
like,
the national media.
What was Stephen A. like hammered the Wizards the other day? Because they're doing basically what we're doing. But for some reason, they're in more trouble for it. I guess it's
Well,
because they
the
have
Thunder-
continuity.
The Thunder are the biggest disappointment so far this year, right? Would you guys agree with that?
Well, yes, coming
Yeah, I
from
don't-
me, I would say
From
yeah.
us, yeah, but
No, I mean just think about it in general terms for the NBA. Like I would think that, the Thunder currently over halfway through the season as a 6 seed, like that has to be
I
even
feel like
even
people
as,
were actually putting us down at 5 or 6
Yeah, there were some
before the
people.
year. There were people that
There were
did
some.
that.
Most thought
I don't know.
like 4 or 3.
Yeah,
I would say.
6 though, on teetering on 7.
yeah, not
like,
good.
To me that
I think most people thought this team was going to be better than Minnesota. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Which I still think like that's what makes it hard for me because I'm with you, Rob. Where I'm worried about this team. I'm worried what their ceiling actually is. But if you put a gun to my head and they were facing off with Minnesota, even if Minnesota had the home court advantage in a playoff series right now,
Still taking them.
I might take the Thunder over a 7-game series where you play each other every single game. The scary thing is just we've talked about it a million times, but you fix one problem and open up a new one.
Yeah.
But
Well, and
we have a guy we haven't even mentioned tonight, though, is Andre Robertson, and
Yeah.
and the impact that he clearly makes on this team,
yeah.
the most unhealthy impact of all time.
Well, and like,
It's like a drug addiction that this team has, and Andre Robertson is the heroin, and when they go off of it, they just are about to die.
yeah, which is weird because everyone thinks like he's a dumbass when it comes to offense, which he
Opinions
can't
have changed.
shoot. Yeah, now everybody suddenly switched their story, but one thing about that, like, first of all, it's Andre Robertson. He shouldn't be that big of an impact to your overall team. You wouldn't think, especially when you have 3 All-Stars. But I suck because I don't remember who this tweet came from. But someone tweeted this out today that the Clippers opening night starters have missed a combined 104 games. Westbrook, Melo, and George have missed combined 5. Yet LA is just 2 games behind OKC. So I don't think there's any room for an excuse of like, well, we're missing Dre, even though I've used that myself. Of
Right.
like, that's why the offense looks shitty. That's why our defense is shitty.
You can use it to a certain extent, but you can't.
But like, you can't say that's why we're where
You
we're
can't
at.
just lean on it.
Yeah, like maybe that's
And that stat you bring up is especially scary because LA's a team that had a huge makeover in the offseason too.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they still have Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, but
that's
their
all-
entire backcourt is new,
everybody else
basically
is new.
outside of And then you talk about all the injuries and the rotating players that they've had going through there. That's what makes that scary.
Yeah.
Is there any scenario in you guys' mind that Presti trades Paul George? Or do you think it's just, you know what, I made the trade, we're sticking it out. I know, trade deadline comes, this team's 30-27 or whatever it would be at that time.
I think you have to stick it out. I don't think there's any way you can make, like, unless it's just dog shit by that. Like, if it's just we haven't won a game from now till then or somewhere close to that, then yeah, trade his ass if you can get anything for him.
I know.
But other than that, like, I think you have to stick it out and just hope that it gets better. And if it doesn't, then you deal with it later and see what happens. But
One thing that worries me about this experiment that is this season, if it doesn't go to the fullest or to what we hope it could go to, could this potentially doom Oklahoma City as far as free agent destinations go? I think before this season, one underlying excitement to the season was, hey, we got Patrick Patterson to come here.
Right.
We got Raymond Felton to come here. We got these veterans that wanted to come here and play with Russell Westbrook, play for this organization. Now, if that experiment fails, is that a fair worry? Like, could that be something? Because this team hasn't, obviously, they haven't been a free agent destination the entire time they've been in Oklahoma City. This year would probably be the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they haven't really had a need to.
What is happening?
They haven't really had a need to bring had the ability to bring in anybody really big before. I mean, the way that the team was built,
Sure.
I mean, you couldn't. And so now that you do have the need, like, it is a little. It's time to, like, find out, if that's true. Like, if players really don't want to come and play here, or if the Thunder just hadn't had to do that before, and now they have to. Now Sam Presti's gonna have to figure out how to get guys to come here, and this is not a good look for the first time. Whenever you finally get not only Paul George, who,
didn't really decide to come in.
didn't, but Carmelo did. I mean, he had to open up to the
Melo
idea
did,
at
for
least.
sure.
And so I don't know how much you attribute that to Paul George being here, and obviously, that was a big thing that he liked about coming here, was being able to play with Paul George.
Right.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, how this season affects how other players view playing in Oklahoma City. I don't know.
But this conversation could be moot if this team gets it together.
It could.
And we very well may be back here next week and be like, whoa, they're playing well.
All right. Well,
they should be. The schedule opens up. They should be seriously. They should be going on a little bit of a run here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to, especially hoping, obviously Robertson coming back. They're hopefully.
When's he supposed to come back? Does anybody know, or is
No one
it
really
the
knows.
Oklahoma City thing where it's like
No one.
I know
really
that
he's
he
just
was-
going to be gone for 6 to 8 weeks? And
he
we're
was
like,
out through the Timberwolves game, and I don't know that they had decided past that.
Yeah, I don't know. What about Billy? He's a guy that has got a lot of criticism throughout the season.
so much.
I think we've been pretty fair with him. We've criticized him some, and we've also given him credit when the Thunder were playing well. This is kind of Billy. This is who Billy is. Since he's been here, the Thunder have kind of lost to bad teams. Not in the way they have this year.
Yeah.
They've underperformed record-wise, unless you want to say that 55-win season in 2015-16 wasn't underperforming, but I'd say it might have been a little underperforming.
Billy has a bunch of. I know that the thing is Billy's not out there like missing shots, but a coach. I mean, I don't know. It's so tough because we're not on the inside. Like, it's hard to know exactly what's happening
It's all speculation.
whenever they're the team's behind closed doors. I'm sure Billy is out there trying to do his best to get these guys to do the right thing. But the fact is that if it's going on deaf ears, then there still needs to be a change. Like, just because Billy's not out there missing shots and not playing defense isn't a reason to not move on from Billy.
I mean, you would do that with every coach then.
Yeah.
You'd be like, Earl Watson isn't out there missing shots.
Exactly.
I mean, he did when he played, but
But
now
at this
he's not.
point, 42 games in the season, wouldn't that? I mean, it's a little too late, right? If you
Yeah,
did
like, is it going
decide,
to work if you bring in a new coach now? Like, that
right?
doesn't
If
seem like
if
it's
you
gonna
were,
happen.
if the front office were to decide and be like, you know what, I don't think it is working.
These guys are already confused as shit on what they're supposed to do. Like,
Clearly.
changing it all around. Let's do that. And then they're just like, I don't even know how to screen again.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about Billy. Like, I still think he's going to make it through the season.
Yeah, I do too.
But I don't know, because they need, like, something needs to be shaken up to get these guys, like, playing how they should be.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That would be a really big move. I also kind of feel like that would be a move to say we're giving up on this season.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the scary part, because I think it also screams a little bit of instability when really the one person you're trying to appeal to is Paul George. And so if you are
Yeah.
showing,
Then all of a sudden they're like, well, the coach left. And,
oh my God, what is like this
It's like, why would I stay
franchise
here?
is
I'll
in a
just
little
go-
bit of turmoil right now. Why?
I'll just go hang out with the clusterfuck that is LeVar Ball's dad and
Yeah.
the Lakers.
Yeah, but his house is
LeVar
right
Ball's
there. His
dad?
family's right there.
Yeah,
Get to
that
play in
works.
front of his family. Maybe that's what he wants. But one thing we've been spending so much time on, talking about Russ, Melo, PG, and a little bit of Adams. One thing we haven't talked about is the role players. And when you think about Jeremy Grant, Josh Hughes, Patrick Patterson, Alex Abrinas, Terrence Ferguson, these past few games, they've just been so bad. They've been so bad. If 1, 2, 3 of those guys step up,
It's a lot different team.
yeah, maybe you can get away with these struggles that Paul
Yeah.
George, Carmelo Anthony are having. We're having some serious technical difficulties. It's got to be this.
Yeah. But yeah, I was actually going to bring that up because they've been
I brought it up first.
god awful. You did beat me to the punch. But like, are they just not good? Like, are the bench players that we have, like, we kind of know who they are. Like, they've been around for a while. So
The weird thing is
like
this-
with Josh Eustace and stuff, and like I feel like we have this like a close bias to them, like where it's like, well, they're playing for our team, so they're
Right.
good players, and then like maybe they're just all not good.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they just don't fit with
Yeah.
the way that this team is constructed. Like that could be it as well.
One
Yeah.
thing, the way that Presti has always constructed the Thunder, though, is they lean heavily on the stars, right?
Yeah.
When Durant and
Yeah.
when Durant was here, it was you lean on Durant, you lean on Westbrook, and a little bit on Ibaka when you need him, and when Harden was here, it's the same thing here. And so when those stars aren't playing well, it's painful.
Yeah, it's very ugly. Like, I mean, I
And,
don't
so,
know if
and the way he picks out these role players, it's basically the same. Long, athletic,
can play some defense.
we'll play hard on defense, and that's about it.
And maybe they'll make a
None-
shot once in a while.
Yeah,
but
no-
now they don't make any shots. They're not making any of them.
Make some
They're
shots.
all like 0 for 40.
And
like
they're
the last
for
couple
damn
games.
sure not making a play.
Nope.
No.
Like that's
No,
just
the ball has to be given to them as they're right
Yeah.
here to the basket. Like, just, I've got it. My hand's by it. Put it there.
It's so like, what's the thinking behind that though? With the way, because it's been at least mildly successful with the way Presti's constructed. Is he just like, I want to get these role guys that know their roles, that'll just do their role?
The way that team was constructed, that's how they got up 3-1 on the Warriors.
Right.
Yeah.
Like being able to
It
switch
works.
everything and like having those guys that can fit that role. Like that was exactly what they needed at that time. I don't know. Maybe it's just these aren't the right guys. We don't have the right guys.
Oh no.
That's the answer. Is our team's not good.
Well, maybe it's just a phase that these guys. Maybe everything's just a little funky right now. I don't know.
It does feel a little funky.
But it is-
But why is
It's
Russ flourishing through the funk?
Well, but it's
'Cause
not.
that's what
It's
he
only
does,
Russ
bro.
though. It's only Russ.
Right.
Like it's not Paul George. It's not Carmelo. Like until those two guys, and even Steven Adams has not been playing well.
He's been not very good lately.
Until those two, he actually has the worst defensive rating.
It's been very weird.
over the last 5 games for this team.
Wow.
Which Jacob keeps bringing up that like Russ's like lackadaisicalness is kind of letting
Carmelo
like
too. Yeah.
hurting Adams, but also like the way they're using Adams sometimes on defense feels a little awkward. Where teams have like started to figure out that they just like switch a guy on him and then their big is fucking wide open.
I don't think that Adams can just go totally unblamed either, though.
Yeah, no. I mean, he
Yeah.
hasn't been able to catch the
But at
ball
the same
lately,
time,
and
he's almost allowed a little bit of a pass.
yeah, because he was incredible
He-
for the
yeah,
entire season up
he-
until now.
He's had a great year, but God, the Thunder need him more than ever right now. It was so weird against Timberwolves coming out of the gate. He was like airballing layups.
Very strange.
He
Yeah.
didn't look in at all. He couldn't catch
Looked
a
like
ball.
He just had eaten an entire bowl of popcorn before he got out there.
More than that, like popcorn with M&Ms in
Just
it.
extra butter.
Oh man, I love popcorn with M&Ms.
Really?
Do you?
Yeah.
Is that
the-
your thing?
The sweet and salty. It's so good.
Oh.
I don't know if I've ever actually had that. I just know it's a thing.
My mom used to eat popcorn and pizza all the time, which is strange. To
Like
me.
on
That
the
is
pizza.
strange.
No, just more of a combo thing, almost like a burger and fries, but popcorn and pizza, which I just don't know how you start doing
So
that.
like she would order a pizza and, then pop some popcorn.
Pop some popcorn, yeah, and eat it. It's weird to me.
That is strange.
Yep.
Is that a thing? Like, is that a popular?
I don't think it is. I think it's just her.
There's probably a thing somewhere.
It's got to be. She had to get it somewhere. She didn't make that shit up.
What if she
What if she
did?
did? She's kind of an innovator in that case.
What's the appeal on that though?
I mean, it's not bad. I've had it. It's okay.
Yeah.
But,
But
I
it's-
also am never like, popcorn. I'll order a pizza or vice versa.
That would be the weird way to
That's the
do
way
it.
to do it.
You get popcorn. Now I want pizza.
I gotta have it.
You got at the movies.
Just order a pizza to the movie theater.
All right, I got a little game here.
Uh-oh.
Centered around the role players. It's a very short game. You guys are familiar with this game.
Okay.
Wow. So this is going to be very similar to the Fuck, Marry, Kill game. It's going to be keep one, trade one, or bench one. And it's going to be centered around the Thunder's role players. Very specific 3 or 4 role players, too.
Perfect.
Ready?
So we're doing keep one.
Keep one, trade one,
bench
Fuck
one.
one.
bench one.
No.
Oh god.
Bench one.
All right, first one. Jeremy Grant, Josh Eustace, Patrick Patterson.
I'm gonna go Jeremy Grant. I'm going to keep.
Okay.
I think of those guys, he's the one that's gonna turn around. You said Josh Eustace and
Patterson.
Patterson. I'm going to bench Eustace, and I'm going to trade Patterson.
I have to say that's probably correct.
You're just going to agree.
Or he's gonna waffle. Nah, might be right.
Yeah.
Did you say trade Patterson?
Yeah.
Oh, well, shit. Yeah, that's the right answer.
See,
that's
that's
the right answer.
He pretends
You
he
should've
didn't know.
went
Ah,
first.
that's what I was
I
gonna
should have
do.
went first.
All right, I'll go.
I'll go
come
first
to you
this
in
time.
this
Okay.
Alex Abrinas,
Trade his ass.
Terrence Ferguson,
Trade his ass, too.
Jeremy Grant.
All right, so trade Abrinas, bench T Ferg, and play Grant. What was the? Is that the?
You don't play.
choices?
You keep.
Keep him. I forgot.
All right, Rob. Josh Eustace, Alex Abrinas, Jeremy Grant.
Eustace, Abrinas, and Grant. I'm definitely going to trade. Oh, that one's.
Toughy.
So I'm gonna keep. I'm gonna keep Grant.
Okay.
I'm gonna trade Abrinas,
Ooh.
and I'm gonna bench Eustace.
You don't want the shooter? You don't want to just hold on to the shooter just in case he turns it around? Just put him on the bench?
Nah, I don't think so.
You saw him play.
Oh, he's bad. He's been so bad.
It's rough.
Oh, when it was the Portland game. He got in the game, got that wide open corner three. I had a perfect view too. I was at the game just right behind it, and his form was perfect. He went up, just drained it, and I was like, he back.
Yeah.
And then right
That was-
down the court, and someone drained one right in his face. I
Gave
was
it
like,
right back.
He back. He is back indeed. All
It's right back.
right, last one. Patrick Patterson, Dakari Johnson, Josh Eustace.
Say that, Patrick.
Patrick Patterson, Dakari Johnson, Josh Eustace.
So you trade Pat. You bench the shit out of Dakari.
Yeah, you keep Eustace.
You keep Eustace, I guess.
Is
It's
Eustace
very
overrated at this point
by
fans?
the fans
Yeah.
of this team, yes. By everyone else in the country.
He's
just
like, I really like Eustace on defense. Like, I think there are times where like he is incredible, but he can't shoot. Like he just.
and then sometimes he'll get a random putback that's pretty cool, or like an alley oop. It's pretty neat.
Whenever we
But when
talked,
he shoots, I am like,
we talked early on during the season. Who did you think would get more minutes, Ferguson or Eustace? The reason I loved Ferguson was because I thought he would be able to add that 3-point shooting. Like that was the better part,
Right.
there.
yeah.
And like that's come true to
Sort
an
of.
extent. Like Eustace just can't. Like all confidence is completely gone. Like Eustace, I don't see him turning that around.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't know how. Just the fact he's not just missing them, but you can just tell he's like hesitant to shoot
Oh,
them.
yeah.
He doesn't want any part of that.
Yeah.
And one thing about Ferguson, so let's see what he's. I mean, he had the one game in LA, right, where he shot the ball.
Incredible.
Overall, he's shooting 26.7% from three. Ferguson is,
He's
and
still jacking him up though. He's
yeah,
got that confidence.
He
I
jacks
like
him
that.
up. I do, but he
But he doesn't.
does it too quick.
Yeah.
Sometimes the extra pass is there and he won't make it, and he'll shoot it up. And maybe that's just something to learn. He is a rookie, so.
I like this little.
This team needs some three-point shooting though. When Raymond Felton's like your second best three-point shooter, he got some issues.
Yeah.
You got some issues.
Not what you want.
But let's give it up to Raymond Felton. I'm so proud of him. I love him. I want him to be a Thunderer forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I really
be cool
like-
with that.
He
Except
plays
for
so
like he's gonna be 47 and
he plays so
when you say
hard.
forever.
He plays so hard, like
play.
He does play very hard.
he doesn't turn the ball over, and when he does turn the ball over, it's usually because he's just playing so hard. Like he's just trying to do something
Yeah.
because no one else can do anything.
Agreed.
Twitter
You wanna
questions? Sure.
Alrighty. Here we go. Zach Weber 33 at Z Avalanche 33.
Yeah.
33.
He does. Is Paul George's inconsistent play a result of him being mentally exhausted from all the LA talks? I don't.
That's a BS excuse if
No
it is.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude is so inconsistent though. Like,
I mean, he's very consistent on defense and very consistent when he's shooting threes, but like the rest of his entire game,
Right.
like everything inside the perimeter, terribly bad.
he's like
sometimes.
consistently inconsistent to a T, right? So he'll have like 3 really good games and then 3 really bad games and then 3 really good games and it just can't.
He's like a square wave instead of like a sine. Like
Yeah.
smooth.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. Okay. Jaden Galvin at Jaden Galvin. That's it. After last night, do you think we should have tried trading Vic and Domas for Jimmy B, who is on a cheaper 2-year deal? And do you think the Bulls would have taken it?
Would they have taken it?
Would they have taken it? I actually think that we tried to do that. I remember Billy was talking to the Bulls about getting Jimmy, and I don't think we got him.
Billy was?
Nope. That's the wrong guy. Sam.
Presti? Yeah, no, I don't think they would have. I think they probably got a better deal, at least on paper, then
Yeah.
for what they got. In Zach LaVine, they got the number 7 pick in the draft, right?
Chris Dunn.
Laurie Markkinen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The marks.
yeah, Chris and Chris Dunn. You're
Yeah.
right.
So.
But
But-
for the yeah, what would you? I mean, obviously,
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably
It-
rather have Jimmy.
if you're in our position, yeah,
Yeah.
I
I-
think you would rather take the chance on Jimmy Butler than have. This is however this ends with Paul George, it's still a headache for everybody involved, right?
Yeah.
Because there's just so much unknown that even if he does stay, it's still once we get through the season, like then you can finally breathe. But that's still like this is not a great position to be in.
Right.
No.
Well, so I have a question to you guys. Like, do you think this team, like when you watched them play Minnesota last night, it seemed like Minnesota has that like grit and grind that we used to have, and we lost it.
That comes with Carmelo.
Russ is the only person that has that now, I feel like.
Yeah.
And everyone else is
it,
just
it comes with Melo,
like
and it
PG's
comes a
kinda
little bit with
smooth.
Paul George. Yeah.
He doesn't have that like I'm just gonna take
You're right,
you to
man.
the hole. Like
The dynamic of this team has changed so drastically this season. It's strange.
it's pretty weird.
And it's so depressing to see how well Oladipo and Sabonis are playing this season. Now, they're like one game behind the Thunder in the standings. I know they're in
Are
the
they?
East. Yeah.
Oh, that's upsetting.
Jeez.
I thought
And,
they were
and
way
those
worse.
two, you know, Sabonis is still coming off the bench for them and playing really well off the
they're-
bench.
They're 21-20.
So were you wrong about Sabonis, Rob?
No, I don't
No,
think so.
Still right.
I'm
I
never
mean-
wrong.
I mean, I
never been wrong.
I think he definitely has been
That
better
camera
this.
back
I don't know. That would be like saying, is somebody wrong about Oladipo with
Right.
like the season he's
Exactly.
having? You didn't see that last year. Like you look at a guy in a different role. Like that doesn't mean that he would have been doing that for the
Yeah,
Thunder.
he
He,
totally
didn't
wouldn't.
do it. For
It was
the
a little
Thunder.
tough to predict with Sabonis too because he did start so well in Oklahoma City. Not for very long, like 30 games, and then he was really bad for the most part. But here's Sabonis' numbers this year, just to depress everyone that's listening.
Yay.
Coming off the bench, so he's coming off the bench 30 to 39 games. Those 9 games, I'm sure, were just when Miles Turner was out.
They were, yeah.
He's playing exclusively the center position. He's scoring 12.5 a game on 54.3% field goal shooting.
That's pretty good.
Take a guess what he shot last year.
Just from the field.
From the
37%.
39.9,
Oh, that was
sorry.
pretty close.
Yeah, you were close. Sorry,
I didn't
just
get a
gotta give
guess,
it-
but that's
I'm sorry. 8
fine.
rebounds a game off the bench.
yeah.
2 points.
I knew.
He averaged 3.6 a game last year. He's only playing 4.5 minutes more a game this year.
I thought you were gonna say he's
And-
only playing 4 minutes a
And
game.
it-
I was
which
like, yeah, that's
obviously
pretty good.
a lot of that has to do with Russ not playing with Russ. Russ gets a lot of those rebounds.
Yeah.
So he's getting 4.5 more rebounds a game, 2.1 assists,
Well, and he plays with a team that plays like a team.
12.5 points, 8 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 0.4 steals, 0.5 blocks. Does turn the ball over 2.1 times per game.
Don't
From
want
3,
that.
he's shooting 39%.
So he was being utilized incorrectly last season. Is that fair to say? I mean, not that.
Yes.
Not that you can just draw a line and just it's either black or white, but I think it's fair to see and he does not like against traditional centers. Like I know he's coming off the bench and he's playing center, but against traditional centers, like a big so Steven Adams, DeAndre Jordan, like he's
Oh,
going
yeah.
to struggle.
Yeah.
We've seen
Yeah.
him struggle.
Adams
against
kicks
those
his
guys.
ass when
Right.
they
Sure.
play.
But if you have that guy on your team, Steven Adams, you're going against less of those guys. Maybe that is, I don't know. It's interesting to think about it,
It is.
in that way, that maybe he's just being utilized different and obviously much better.
I'll spare
coaching problems?
I'll spare you
Yeah.
guys Oladipo's numbers.
I
Yeah,
don't-
thank you. I
yeah.
don't want to hear
Um,
that shit.
But I thought that was a really interesting point you just brought up, Rob, because that's a thing the Thunder do, right? They bring in Robertson, they have him do something he's never done in his entire life before. You know, you play guard, you guard guards. It's kind of what they do. They try to make guys something that they haven't
Not
ever been.
necessarily supposed to be.
It's like I don't know. They're like trying to. I mean, they're trying to be
Trying to
innovative.
fit a square peg in a round hole.
They're trying to be innovative in a
That's what
way,
they're doing.
and I think it works sometimes. Obviously, with Robertson, it's working really well.
Sometimes you jam it in there, it works.
But it is an interesting observation
All right,
that you made.
Thank you.
From
You're welcome.
YouTube Lives, we got switching channels. He says, thoughts on how we're defending the pick and roll without Andre. Adams switching onto the ball carrier seems to create problems that lead to open looks for the opposition.
I mean, I feel dumb just pointing out the pick and roll because everything's been so bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's happening. We're giving up offensive rebounds, letting guys get in the paint at will. So it's hard to just.
But yeah, it does seem weird. I kind of brought that up earlier where Adams is switching out, and it just feels like he's now not by the rim, and it's.
But the reason is because you're taking the guy who's the best on the team at fighting over a screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's now a forced switch because whoever it is, Russ or whoever else that you want to say out there, is just not going to fight over the screen like Andre Robertson does. So
Yeah.
it's completely
so it makes
different.
It
but
very difficult.
yeah.
Right. All right. Back on Adams. Jack Sokol at Sokol22. Why do you think Adams is going through a slump right now? What can he do to get out of it?
I
Needs
think
a Draymond Green kick to the dick.
It's a natural slump. I mean, guys go through slumps, and his just happens to be at a terrible time for this team.
Yeah. Because it's while everybody else is also slumping,
Right.
except for Russell.
Yeah.
All right.
And what's going to happen is these other guys are going to break out of it, and then Russ is going to go through a slump.
Oh,
Probably so.
God.
Fingers crossed,
If
knock
it
on
never-
wood, all of the things. Here's some wood. Russ hasn't gone through a slump in a long time. He's been really good for a long time now.
So you're saying he's due.
So it's happening.
He's due.
All right. T at Drinking Tea says, is it possible that OKC has 3 players that make first team all defense this year? Dre should have a good chance considering his position is back as a guard, and Pat Bev and CP3 missing the time. PG is a lock at the moment, and Adams may be one to miss out because of how good Horford has been.
And, yeah, in recent play.
Yeah.
But those, like, we were looking at those numbers for Robertson. I didn't realize how great Robertson was. When you look at his on and off numbers,
Yeah.
like, it has to be, with how many minutes he's played, it has to be the highest in the league.
It's night and day. I mean,
Ridiculous.
it's like two different. It's like looking at two different teams. It's insane.
Yeah.
If you just look at those numbers, like, he is far and away the defensive player of the year.
But to answer the question, I don't think
I
3
doubt it.
players
I
is
doubt it.
possible. I mean, has that
Especially
ever
not with
even
their
happened?
record.
That's another, that's a good
Not
point.
happening with the record.
You're not even the best defensive. Like, you look at the
Yeah.
Celtics and how they're,
Like,
you know,
they might.
completely locking people up. That's a good point. They might.
I agree that Paul George is probably a lock for the moment because of his steals,
steals, yeah.
deflections, and the fact that he is a good offensive player. Robertson, he's missed some games. He's missed, what, 7, 8 games now? I think 8 games.
Yeah.
Hurts you?
So that'll go against him a little bit, but he should absolutely make first team all defense.
I agree.
Dude, you can. I don't.
I thought he should have last year.
I'd probably lean and say I think he's the best defender in the entire league.
Above
now,
Kawhi?
yes.
We talked a lot about the defensive anchor of this team, and it needed to be Steven Adams. Is it Andre Robertson? Like, does everything else work off of what Robertson does?
Isn't the defensive anchor the best defender on the team?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I think, like, we kind of talked about this in the chat the other day. Like, I think that person is Dre, but I understand that, like, Adams is back there calling stuff out. But I think Dre's intensity and his effort bleeds onto the other guys. Goes back to the bleedy thing.
I don't want to get too far down on this, but Adams is kind of, like you said, calling out everything and is sort of, you know, underneath. I think you view it as more, whereas Robertson is basically taking one person completely out of the game
yeah,
for the most
he's
part.
just eliminated.
It's a little different.
And he's such a good help defender too. The fact that he can cheat off into the paint a little bit with his long arms. He's so good in recovery to get out and contest.
Really long arms.
Yeah.
Very long.
And,
the
and
longest.
he's quick.
It's very quick.
And
also.
he's disciplined.
Very, very quick.
I'm just gonna keep going on him, man.
Might as
He's-
well.
I think he's got good skin. I just want to touch him, man. I
Oh, God.
just want to give him a hug.
All right.
I'd hug him right now. I would. Oh, I'd embrace him for so long.
He'd go all the way around your body.
Oh,
twice.
his arms just re-wrap around his own self. Wow, that'd be impressive.
Hey, he deserves 2 hugs in one.
He
hug.
might be able to hug all 3 of us with those
Whoa.
long arms.
Those are long arms.
Do you think you could score on Robertson?
No,
I
I definitely could. I can't score on Rob.
You're not allowed to be in this.
I don't even think I could get lucky and just throw it up at the rim and it would go in.
No,
Like, he would be.
smash it right back in your
The
face.
only way you could score it just have to be like a 35-footer, you know.
Yeah.
You just-
And even
Yeah,
then, he'd
lucky.
probably still reject it or something.
You
it's
just
at
catch
least
it in
scare
there.
you.
Yeah.
All right, Nick at plain name Nick. Plain name you got there, Nick. Why do the Thunder continue to double teams with Adams on the perimeter? kind of talked about this already.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. We had another question.
It was a
about
very
that. Why would
long-
you read two of the same question?
Well, this is very
Well,
long.
just give that guy credit. He also asked a
Good
question.
job.
Thanks,
Ask the same
Nick.
question.
Oh, God.
Thunder Up Johnny at Triple Double VGC. It seems our team lives and dies by the streaky shooting of PG and Mello. If they shoot poorly, we lose. Yes. How do we restructure the team or team system so the offense doesn't live and die by their jump shots?
That's what we were talking about, right? Leaning on stars.
Yeah, the problem is I don't know that these role players. I don't know that
You can't
you're
lean on
ever
them.
going to be able to count on those role players as much as you know, are going to have to with Carmelo and Paul George.
Until Ray steps it up and gets 30 a game.
It's funny because it's true. This is the moment that you miss those guys like Deion Waiters. When, yeah, he's not a terribly efficient player, but he likes having the ball. He likes to shoot it. He
Yeah.
wants to shoot it. You
How
know,
about Cantor? Like you're
Yeah.
right?
really
Oh my
missing
God.
Cantor right now.
So bad.
Because Jeremy Grant's
How many
not
more
trying to take
wins
a
would
shot.
would the Thunder have if they had Cantor instead of Melo right now? I mean, because I think we all agree the ceiling is higher with Melo. You have a better shot if Melo's playing well with this team to knock off some of the big dogs. But with Cantor, I think this team might be 4 wins better.
I was going to say 5.
Yeah.
I was going to say
Which
6.
5 would put
Not
them
really well.
at the 4 seed.
But that's
Right now.
that's a really good point about Deion Waiters and Enes Kanter missing those guys because right now outside of those 3, no one wants to shoot on this team.
Yeah.
No one does.
Felton,
Nope.
and
Yep.
even that's still not his game,
Yeah.
but he's forced to do it.
He's gotten pretty good at it. All right, going off your point, this is a little different, but Codeman at Fitzmagic15. How different would this team be with Blake Griffin at the 4 instead of Melo?
This is a first.
Well, they would be very
It'd be very different.
Yeah, I mean they would be
It's a lot different.
Well, remember that was
so
the whole
much
thing
better.
this summer, like Thunder
Blake's
trying to
coming.
get Blake Griffin in the signing trade. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, he's staying clipped for life though, and
Which
now
is-
he can shoot threes.
It's
really well.
kind of a bummer though. Like I'm not the biggest
He'd have
Blake
missed
Griffin,
a lot more games.
probably so.
Oh, God.
I'm not the biggest Blake Griffin fan. I don't love the way that he plays and whines, and I just don't love it.
Well, and
but
also just as always,
like the talent, I mean, you just
Yeah.
can't deny how
He's a good passer.
good he is.
He can hang on. He can.
he got handles.
Yeah.
He can shoot threes.
He can jump. I know he can jump.
He can jump.
You know, his athleticism has really decreased though since he's been.
Well,
in
that's
the league.
because
like he can still
broken
jump, but-
every bone in his legs
and maybe he doesn't use it as much
and his
anymore.
fist over a guy's
Jumped
face
over
at
that
one time.
car, I remember.
but- Yeah. Whew, it was a Kia too.
Do you think in practice he didn't make it, and that's why it kind of injured him? No. All right, Cass at Casimir MC. Lots of people citing this losing streak to Robertson. He is important, but other teams miss players too and still find ways to win games. What's the real issue here? Because this isn't all about Andre at all, is it?
Talked about
Shouldn't
this.
be.
We did. Shouldn't be.
I mean, to be honest, I think the issue is number 1, the big 3 outside of Russell Westbrook, the OK 3 outside of Russell Westbrook, are not shooting well.
Yeah.
Number 2, the role players aren't stepping up.
They're,
outside
they're
of-
stepping down
Yeah.
very
Oh my God.
forcefully.
They're swimming.
They're laying on the court.
Raymond Felton is, but outside of that, no one else is. And then number 3, all of what I just said.
All right.
When was the last time this team
Repeat 1 through 2.
held
It's like
somebody?
the Brian.
Uh-huh.
Someone on YouTube's gonna know what I'm talking about. Brian Adams song, the repeat steps of 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
thank
It's
God,
the
'cause
jam,
I was
man.
lost.
It was
So the
jam.
last time the Thunder have held, it was the Lakers. They held the Lakers under 100. But you look at that. I mean, since then, it's been like crazy. I mean, they're just giving up so many points,
And
and
not scoring very many.
corresponds with Robertson being out. So you do the math on that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
and I tweeted out the other day, and I talked about it in last night's little short podcast, that the numbers with Robert in games defensively, when Robertson does play, the Thunder have the second best defensive rating in the entire league. When he doesn't, they have the worst defensive rating in the entire NBA.
It's a pretty big difference.
Insane. We
Yeah.
got any more?
Yes, always in forever art at always in forever art. How frustrated do you think Westbrook is at this point in the season?
So frustrated.
10?
Yeah,
10? I
close
don't know,
to
he's
it.
10.
9?
He's up there.
I mean, you look
He's
at
at
his,
least an 8. That's Bobby over here.
Yeah, he's with me for sure.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic, too, because if this season does turn out to be a failure,
Don't say.
it's going to, like, Russ was, I'm sure, all for all the moves that happened this summer. And then now is he going to, like, be like, what are you listening to me for? You're the GM.
Yeah, do your job. Trade me.
Yeah. It's like, what
Don't.
happened here?
Please no. All right, Hunter Harjo, last one. Add Hunter Harjo 7. Why not go for a lineup of Paul George at the 2, Melo at the 3, and Patterson at the 4, because Patterson is known to do well with a true big man. I don't know if this guy has been watching Patterson.
I do like the idea though, and I
It
kind of
would be
wish
neat.
that Billy would have tried that in the fourth quarter last night, just to see.
Yeah.
Like-
I think you brought that up, yeah.
Yeah, let's just see what would
Like,
happen.
Would it
here.
be okay?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Totally agree, because if you don't do that, then you're relying on one of Hustis, Grant, Abrinas, or Ferguson, and a lot of times it's been Ferguson
But, like,
lately.
Why isn't Patterson stepping up more as a guy who's been in the league for a while on the bench? Like I feel like he should take
Still
that.
think the Thunder use him in a way that he's been used in the past.
Well, yeah.
He's basically a middleman, where he gets the ball in the perimeter and he just swings it.
Yeah.
I mean, very rarely
Does
he
he actually
gets
do
that
it?
corner 3 here and there, and he knocks it down a decent percentage when he does get it.
It seems like that's the only spot he knocks him down though, as well. He has
definitely.
to go sit in the corner and hope that he gets the ball, which,
Yep.
I mean, that's not. Obviously, that's limiting his opportunities as well.
The Thunder bench has some serious problems. And
They do.
that's going to take a lot of people back to that, well, maybe Melo should go to the bench. Hey, at this point, I'm down to try whatever. Let's just see what happens.
Is Melo down to try whatever? That's the question.
I don't believe he is.
Probably not.
Hey, B, that guy. Say you gotta come off the bench.
That's an issue, man. That's so sad. You know, like if Knicks fans are right in the end on this whole thing. Jason just refuses
Yeah.
to like put his mind in that. I don't want to do that. To
Not till
myself.
he sees it. He's like,
I
it's
don't
not
see it.
happening.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Follow us on Twitter at OKC Thunderhead. Subscribe on YouTube. If you did watch us on YouTube Live, we appreciate it very much. And if you didn't,
You
Go
should.
fuck yourself.
No.
I'm
Wow.
just kidding.
There's always next time, though. Subscribe on iTunes, too. Leave a review if you'd be so kind. It does help us out a lot. Find us on Facebook, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Overcast, OKCThunderheads.com. We will be back on, the Thunder play the Hornets. It's an afternoon game, 4 o'clock Oklahoma time. We will podcast.
Central Standard Time for you
Yeah.
people that don't know what that is.
We will podcast immediately following the game, so we will catch you guys then. Till then, and as always, Thunder up.